And they start to piece things together, like what 17-year-old has a massive asthma
that's
attack
the thing.
that
Like
leads
Debbie,
to a fatal heart attack.
Yeah, Deb's like, like what 17-year-old has fatal asthma, and Dan, and then she walks away and she looks at Dan looks at Rick and just like, God, Kristen's story is really getting to her. And Rick's like, Dan, I don't know if it's a story. Look at us, we're dropping like flies here. And then he runs after Alice, who's freaking the fuck out. And then, yeah.
They have a dream class. Mm-hmm. This is where
Bob Shea gets his cameo.
I'm like, hey, at least I'm not in a leather bar this time.
Exactly. And I think that's the same teacher that they eventually are supposed to go to in the original script. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Because he talks about dream gates, and there's a good dream gate and a bad dream gate. I'm like, wouldn't you call the bad dream gate the nightmare gate? But that's fine.
No. Well, they might not have had a word for nightmare when Aristotle was existing.
Fair enough. I mean, just later on, you can update it. Like,
you would think, but I think
we now call it the nightmare gate.
The idea is to, when you're teaching it, you teach it in the language that they originally had.
So it's just more foreshadowing for later. Mm-hmm. Even though we don't see the teacher again, his teachings are later on. So Rick is dreaming. Mm-hmm.
Rick basically,
we do the blinky again.
Dan has a little argument with one of his little school chums, and Rick pops up and he's half dead because he's been up all night with Alice, and he's like, oh yeah, because Dan had gone in to visit Alice in the diner and she's not sleeping anymore.
Yep.
And because
she's working doubles and she's trying.
And he's just like, oh, you need the money, huh? And she's like, no, you know why? You just don't want to believe me. And Dan's like, well, and he's like, Rick. So Rick says, like, I've been up with Alice, and he actually says the most foreshadowing I've ever. It's like, hey, if I'm next, man, watch your back. And he's smiling. And I'm like, dude, you were so gonna die. Mm-hmm. And he dies like Elvis. So he goes and sits on the toilet, blinks, and he's out. Cheerleaders show up. And it was the cheerleaders. I'm done trying to remember.
And
if the
his sister.
Well, I'm trying to remember if the cheerleaders were first.
Yes, they were. Yeah, they all come in.
Because there was a second part to this. Because basically, when the cheerleaders get shoveled out, this is when you see Kristen looking at him in the mirror outside. Yeah. And then she's like, Rick, make me laugh. And he's like, oh, there's my girl. And then she turns and she's all bleedy and fucking burnt up and like, literally does.
But Alice was there too with the cheerleader.
Alice was there, but she gets pushed out because Alice is the one dreaming him in. Because she falls asleep as well, which is why it happens, right? Because she falls asleep in Aristotle class. And so he ends up...
Not the first time Bob Shea put someone to sleep.
Nope. So then she falls asleep... he is in an elevator. So we got the first part of the elevator sequence. So
we didn't have enough money for the end.
So Freddy's like, going down, and there was supposed to be a whole line about like, third floor, knives and, weapons and shit like that, but it didn't happen. And then it just, like, he's about to, like, it's falling and falling and falling. You're like, oh my god, he's going to get crushed, like what would happen if you fall in an elevator. And he's holding himself up, which Mythbusters proved would never actually work, but he's trying. And then it lands, and he falls out, and then he's in a dojo in the best that $300 can buy dojo,
basically.
And
he's wearing a gi.
He is, and it's apparently, and then all of a sudden, Invisifreddy starts kicking his ass. Yeah. Because I'm pretty confident Robert Englund was already working on something else at the time, so he couldn't come back for this. And this is what they could do for $300. So, and this is where he rips his stitches. So he's, kicking his ass for a minute, and then all of a sudden, Ninja Rick can see without fucking seeing. He's the Karate Kid now.
Yep.
And he starts beating the shit out of Invisifreddy. And he's like, yeah, I can, he's like, chicken shit and all this, and kicks his ass and everything like that, and he's like, kicks the glove off. Mm-hmm. And then...
he's like, well, I won this fight.
He's like, haha, sigh, because that's his fucking motto now. And then the glove just fucking goes, like, turns toward him, and then just flies and stabs him in the chest, and that's how Rick dies.
Sayonara, Rick, son!
Yeah, which... okay. And then Alice freaks the fuck out and explodes the room.
Oh, yeah, she wakes up, no!
Boom!
Boom! Like a bomb goes off.
Whole class, windows explode everywhere.
We never go back to, like, you would investigate what just happened.
How did the girl screaming blow up the room? Is her scream nuclear? Is that what we're getting at? But no, so Rick dead. And then we cut to his funeral. I think, right? Yeah. And then she, Alice being Alice,
daydreams.
he fucking opens up the casket, It's like, hello, baby. And he's like, looking around like, what are you crying for? This isn't real. It's a joke. It's a big joke to fool Freddy. We got him. Ha-ha. And I'm like, what was the plan? And then she's just like, no more daydreams. He goes, well, gotta go.
Yep,
and
gotta go back to sleep.
Yeah, crawls back into the casket, closes it, and that's it. Yep. And there's Rick. And then Dan and Deb meet up with Alice. And we're just like, well, we're gonna work this out. And Deb goes, come to my place. We're gonna figure it out. And Alice apparently forgets this. We'll get to that in a minute. But then it's just like, it's like a whole thing about like, no, this is it. It's mind over matter. And Deb's like, Sheila used to say that. And Deb's like, well, she's getting weirder and weirder. And he goes, no, it's after every death. Starting to realize that she's getting powers.
Good job, Columbo.
Yeah, well,
you fucking figured it out.
No, not really. He's not the sharpest fucking knife in a drawer. But so then we get to, is this where she's at home now?
Yeah. And she knows Kung Fu.
She knows, yeah. So we get
like Neo in the Matrix.
This is a very famous scene because we have a bit of foreshadowing where, like, earlier in the movie, she's got pictures of everybody up on her mirror, and Rick asked, like, what the fuck? Like, you can't see yourself. She's like, I don't want to. So she's taking them down as people die. She's taking down pictures of the people. And then she's got his nunchucks and his headband. So she puts the headband down, and then she's got the nunchucks, and she's flipping around like, huh, that's funny. And all of a sudden, she knows how to use them.
Yep.
And then, of course, this is why I say it's famous. Whenever we cut to the back of her, clearly not Alice, clearly not Lisa Wilcox is nunchucking around in the single
chucker, eh?
Yeah, the single worst wig that you've ever put on an extra that does not even remotely match the hair color of Lisa Wilcox is ninja kicking the nunchucks here. And then she finishes and she goes, what's happening to me? And I'm like, well, clearly you've become a fellow chucker.
Yep.
You and Michelangelo got this down. And Random Foot Soldier.
Yeah.
So this is when she decides to fuck off. And she's got to go meet with Dan and Deb. So she tries to leave the house.
Dad does not.
Dad's done with this.
No, you can't leave the house.
You can't leave.
Can't leave me.
I lost Rick because I didn't watch him. And I'm not letting that happen to you. Or all we have. And I'm like, ugh, what does that mean? I've seen things like that. This is fucking 2020 going on, right?
I'm good, Dad.
Ew, creepy
personal space.
Yeah. So she goes upstairs like, I need to get out. And she's like, oh, wait, I'm Rick.
No contact day.
No contact day. So she figures out how to climb out of the house like him. And then she runs out and it's like going off to run and fucking meet up with Dan. And we cut to Dan, who's just like looking around. By the way, the name of the diner is the Crave Inn. Get it?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And then he's looking around and I guess he's new in town. Although he somehow managed to already Letterman in a fucking sport, but he's apparently new. And he just sort of goes...
He's two-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning,
well, so... That's clearly true. So he's that good at football. So he looks around and it's just like the whole world's in America, and I had to move to the Twilight Zone. All right.
References!
Yeah. And then, so Alice is running to meet Dan, and while Debbie is putting on the Sinead O'Connor song to work out to, and she starts lifting the weights... clanging and banging.
Yep.
And then fucking Alice forgets what she's planning on.
And goes to the movies.
Goes to the movies.
Goes to watch Reefer Madness, of all things.
I mean, New Line Cinema owns the rights to Reefer Madness.
So there you go.
So you go see Reefer Madness.
So she gets her popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
And
a Pepsi.
Get that Pepsi shot in there.
Yeah,
get that Pepsi money.
Got the logo there. I mean, Pepsi was in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. For this alone, I should be drinking nothing but Pepsi. And I do like Crystal Pepsi.
So there you go.
So, haha.
So she's sitting there, and apparently this movie's in 4DX
because this chick, I do like this scene. It actually looks fantastic, and actually this is the first time anyone's ever done that. That scene where, because basically, so the place goes, she gets pulled in, like it's wind and everything like that.
Her popcorn and
her popcorn start flying into everything, and then she gets pulled into it, and she gets pulled into the screen. So she literally goes from...
the shoe.
Yes.
Her shoe goes off, and it lands on the screen, and you're like, okay.
And it literally goes from 3D to 2D in that shot. And that's the first time anyone's ever done that.
She flies into the screen.
She flies in and she goes straight up 2D.
Or into the scene.
And then you turn around, and all of the audience members are everyone who's just died.
Yep.
Which I like.
And they all stand up and
standing for getting turned into things. So she'd said earlier that her worst fear was working at the diner for the rest of her life. So she's in the diner.
A rundown version of the diner and the town at this point.
And it's black and white, which I like.
Yep.
And then she's like herself, her old self.
Old Alice.
Old gnarly-ass self asks her, like, what'll it be? And she's like, come on, honey. I don't want to be here forever. Get it? And Freddy pops up.
And then she just leaves. She walks away. Like, but I want to order the chicken.
Well, no, she's going to get Freddy's food.
Right.
Because Freddy's a regular. And Freddy says the weirdest sentence delivery I've ever seen. Where he just sort of like, she's handing him the pizza and he's like, the food don't kill you. The service will. And he does that. I don't know what that is. But he does it.
Like, ooh-cha!
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Like, you trying something new, Bob?
Yeah, like, hey, Bobby, stick to the script there. I know you got lucky with the welcome to prime time bitch and all, but come on, man.
But his new thing's gonna be ooh-cha!
Yeah, his new. Freddy's gonna everybody. It's his thing.
No, he's not.
He's not. Stop it.
Now eat the pizza.
You're bad.
Alright.
Alright, fine. Rick, you little meatball. Fucking alright. So they hand him a giant pizza, and all the meatballs are faces. And they're all screaming.
My guess is just his victims.
I would assume, but you can't tell. And
except for Rick.
Yeah, Rick you can tell because it has to be him. And he stabs him in the head. It's like soul food. The first time he ever refers to soul food. Not the last time. And, he's like, oh, Rick, you little meatball. Because he stabbed it with his glove. And then he eats it. And Alice tries to get up and he grabs her. And he does finish swallowing. Yeah. Which I was like, oh, that was an attention to detail we didn't need. But I like that. He's like, bring me more. And it's just like, fuck you, I'm not bringing you more. Then the door opens, there's Debbie. He's like, thanks.
Like, son of a bitch!
Yeah, it's like, god damn it, I'm not good at this. And then, so Alice is just, and then he goes to Alice, your shift is over, and then flings his glove at her. And then he fucks off. She gets up
and she's like, oh,
shit, I'm still at home.
Debbie.
Yeah, right, I gotta go to Debbie's place, change her shoes, because now she's only missing one, because it happened. And then she starts running towards the Craven. And we get to Debbie, who is clanging and banging, as we said. And then as she's lifting, I like this shot, too, where it's like, it's out of focus on the barbell, and it clears up, and there's Freddy standing there. And then we cut to overhead, and he's there, and the line is great, where she's just like, I don't believe in you. I believe in you. Like, that's pretty good. And then he pushes it down, the barbell down. So she's trying to struggle against him, but she's failing. And then all of a sudden, her elbows pop open. Ooh. And both elbows. This effect is top notch. Whatever you want to say about this is the shit. So her arms start, like, she opens her arms out and they're flopping around. And then things start pulling out of the inner part of her elbow. And it turns out they're pincers from a cockroach. So she's turning into a cockroach. And then she runs, and Freddy throws the barbell at the screen, and the screen breaks. And now she's in this thing with cockroaches around. And she's slowly turning into one. There is an action figure of this, by the way, which I do have. And so Debbie is running, and then she's stuck. And she falls. And her face ends up in the sticky shit, and she pulls it, and her face melts away. And she's a cockroach with human legs. And then we cut to product placement, even though he never actually says what it is, but it is the line from the Roach Motel where he just looks in and then just says, you can check in, but you can't check out. And squishes it and she's dead. The line's good. Although, what was happening during this, we were cutting to Alice shows up, meets up with Dan,
and they're in a loop.
Like, yeah, we're basically like, we gotta go. I'm driving. And they get in, and then
we gotta go to Debbie.
I gotta go to Debbie. I gotta save her. I'm with you on this. And she's like, okay.
Are you hitting on me right now?
The nice boy likes me. I'm gonna keep driving though. And then cut to does it again, and then cut to does it again, and then he just like, we gotta hurry. I'm driving, and she goes, he's got us going in circles. We gotta go. By doing the same thing you've been doing?
It's just like, it's not
How does this break the cycle? But it does. I don't know how. Well, other than Freddy's busy because he already killed Debbie, so he's good. So he's like, and then, the fucking car shakes and he goes, oh my god, Debbie, he's killed her. I've collected her.
Yeah, because she goes, whoa.
Yeah, and she's collected Debbie. And then here's Freddy.
Middle of the street.
And she's a moron. So she just goes, I'm going to punch his ticket in and fucking floors it. And then She hits Freddy. The car fucking